Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for the Chamber's first International Women's Day lunch. And what a beautiful day to be looking out at this golf course, isn't it? Too bad we can't be out there playing. I'm going to apologize to you up front. I have a cold. I'm going to try to make it through this without coughing or getting anything in between. But I thought I should tell you that up front, and I didn't shake any hands, so all good. First, I really would like to thank our very generous and gracious presenting sponsor, Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. As well as our other sponsors, also very important, Wayne State University Mike Ilitch School of Business, Chemical Bank, ComSource, Faurecia, got some Faurecia in the house back here, and Oakland University School of Business Administration. Thank you all very much. And please make sure if you run into folks who represent these companies, tell them how much you appreciate it, because they really do make programs like this possible. We really appreciate their support. So, International Women's Day was Friday, March the 8th, and today the Chamber joins a global cohort of advocates to promote the message of equality and diversity. International Women's Day is being celebrated by many countries across the world, and you should know that the first celebration emerged over a century ago, and it was due to the debate surrounding gender inequality, and it spurred women to become more active in championing for success and for parity. From the strides made in legislative halls to the boardrooms and beyond, International Women's Day celebrates unity and advocacy for a just world. The theme for this year's International Women's Day, which I really do like very much, coming from the business world, think equal, build smart, and innovate for change. It puts innovation by and for women and girls at the heart of efforts to achieve gender equality, ensures that they play a decisive role in emerging industries. Really very, very important for our economic future. We're honored to spread this message, and we look forward to hearing from a really tremendous, diverse panel of regional leaders from our community. At this event, not only do you as attendees have the chance to listen to these influential regional leaders, but you also had the opportunity to donate feminine hygiene products or monetary donations for them and for women in need in the community. All the donations will go to the Coalition on Temporary Shelter, or COTS, Detroit, one of the largest providers of housing and supportive services for homeless families in our city. Lindsay Karras of COTS is also with us today if you have any questions that you'd like to talk with her about their mission and their services. But Lindsay, can you please stand so everyone can see you? Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for all you do. Thank you to those who've already donated. And if there are those in the room who have not, I'm here to tell you there's actually a table up front by the registration table. So we would be very happy to still take your donations. Thank you. I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoy the lunch. This is my home club, Detroit Golf Club. I'm very proud of it. So I hope you enjoy the food. And I hope you enjoy your time here. And mostly, I hope you enjoy the programming. These are a dynamic group of women moderated by another dynamic woman in her own right. So it should be a great program. But before I say goodbye and let you eat your lunch, I would like to welcome up Trina Scott. Trina's the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion from Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans, and she's going to deliver some brief remarks. And after that, we'll have some lunch. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everyone doing? Good, good, good. It's my pleasure to be here. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be amongst so many amazing women to celebrate the International Women's Day and Women's History Month. Occasions such as this provides us an opportunity to highlight the vital role that we, women, continue to play both in the city of Detroit and the region. My name is Trina Scott, and I do lead diversity and inclusion for Quicken Loans and the family companies. And I'm also happy to say that we will have our first Detroit golf tournament here in July or June, and we're super excited that the Detroit Golf Club is hosting. Just like you, each day I'm fortunate to be surrounded by strong female professionals, and I'm here with some of my colleagues today. Whether it's written in our company titles, proven by our work ethic, evident in the roles that we play outside of work. Boy, do we play a role outside of work, right, ladies? Or all the above, we are strong leaders and phenomenal women. So in the spirit of sharing and celebration, let's connect with at least one new woman today. Can everybody commit to doing that? Yes. We should always be pouring into each other. Let's also continue to take our efforts into our communities. It doesn't matter if she's a CEO, an entrepreneur, an artist, church mother, block club captain. Women are everywhere, and we make the world better. Wouldn't you agree? Come on, give it up for the women, yes? On a personal note, my grandmother is 91 years old, and she's in her final days, but every day is a blessing. And I just recently visited with her, as I do every weekend, helping to take care of her through this process. And she reminded me of how her life experiences shaped her into who she is today. My grandmother lived through the Great Depression and segregation. She wasn't in anyone's history book or a movie, but she was very impactful and has been impactful for me and my family. What makes her special to us, even though she had to endure a lot, she made sure we understood the value of literacy, education, and voting, working the polls every year until she was 70. Just thinking about that gives me the chills. I actually do have the chills because she has been paramount into my career and all of the women in our family. So in this room, I'm sure that we can all think of unsung sheroes, past or present. We sit on the shoulder of giants, and we will continue to shine bright for them and the future generations. Thank you so much. Enjoy the luncheon.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome anchor for Detroit Public Television, Christy McDonald.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to see everyone, and what a fabulous full room this is today. I am so honored to be hosting and moderating the Detroit Regional Chamber's celebration of International Women's Day just a few days late, but this is a celebration I think that we could kind of continue and keep stretching along all year round, right? Once a week at least, let's all get together. But the theme here, as Tammy said, is leading with a purpose. And I have always been inspired by women who are leaders and what choices that they've had to make to get where they are professionally, what choices that they've had to make personally to get where they are. I find these conversations to be amazing, and I'm sure you're having them at your tables here this morning. You know, as my job as an anchor and managing editor of our show, One Detroit, on public television, I get the opportunity, and I'm so lucky to do so, to talk to a variety of people, whether it's CEOs or politicians or community leaders or entrepreneurs. And a lot of times I hear these stories. They'll say, you know, I worked hard for 15 years, and here I am today, and I'm very lucky I'm here. And I always like to probe a little deeper, because you have to know that they had those moments of, are you kidding me? And what more do I have to do at this point? Or, oh man, where am I going to go from here? And it's those questions that we've all had in our head one time or another that we can share with each other and at events like this here today, and have these deeper conversations of how do we get to the next level? What decisions that we have to make that maybe the path wasn't directly forward, but we had a zigzag to the left, we had to back up 2 steps, and then we had to plow forward 5. And I think that's what's so impactful about an event like this. You know, we are all women in leadership roles in this room, whether we are leading our own career of 1, whether we are leading a staff of 10 or we're leading a staff of 1,000. And what we hear today from the tables and from the dynamic speakers that we have here, I hope will inspire you to think about leadership with a purpose in an entirely different way. We do have a wonderful group of women leaders here today, and all of them come from various backgrounds. They lead large staffs, some work with family, and they all have different perspectives on leadership and business today. This really is a place to celebrate success today, here, all of us in this room, and to challenge all of us by asking, is there a way that we can make a place for more women to come to the front of the room? So I ask you to kind of keep that in mind today as we go forward. So this is how the program is going to go. Each woman is going to come up and give kind of a 10-minute TED Talk style talk for us all. And they're going to come up. I'm going to give you their information and their bios, kind of the rundown right now, and then they will come up one by one. After they're done speaking, everyone's going to come up here on the stage. We're going to take a seat, and we're going to have a bigger discussion. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into some of these conversations. And then we want you to take part of it as well. I don't want you just to be sitting here and listening. Think about some of the questions that you have, some of the points that you would like to bring up, and we'll make sure we get a microphone around, and you can be part of the conversation that we have here after all the speeches are over. Okay? So that's what I need from you guys. All right. So now I'm going to give you the backgrounds of all of our speakers here today. I do want to make one note that Naja Bazi is not with us today. She had a death in the family, and so she's in our thoughts and in our prayers here, but she's not going to be able to be with us here today. But our first speaker is Ana Almeida. She is the Vice President of the Customer Business Unit at Faurecia. Again, we see the table right there. She manages more than $1 billion in sales for the big 3 OEM accounts. She leads regional and global multifunctional teams. And Ana helps increase profit and customer satisfaction, sharpen work processes, and improves program management while leading solution-driven teams. I want to know how this woman does it all. She has an MBA from the University of Michigan and an engineering degree. Our next speaker is Adrienne Bennett. Maybe you've heard of her if you watched Mayor Mike Duggan's State of the City address. She's the president and CEO of Benkari Mechanical, a plumbing contracting company that has worked on projects including Little Caesars Arena. She is the first Black female master plumber in the nation. And before starting her family-run company, she consulted on project management and design for Comerica Park and Ford Field. She is working on the Michigan train station right now. We're going to get her to talk about that a little bit. She's active also in encouraging students to get into skilled trades. And our final speaker will be Leanne Hello. She's the vice president of the Cabinet Studio, a Windsor-based business that designs and sells non-toxic green kitchen cabinetry. She's been at the company since 2005, and she works with her mother as a design team. She has a Bachelor of Commerce degree from the University of Windsor. She is a hugger, and she has a TED Talk talking all about the power of hugs. I highly recommend you guys look that up. All right, again, after each one of these amazing women speaks, we're going to have a conversation up here. So think about your questions, how you want to get involved, because I would love to hear from you. And with that, let's bring up our first speaker, Ana.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Vice President for Ford Motor Company, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, and General Motors business units at Faurecia North America, Ana Almeida.
Hello. I'm very happy to be here. I hope this conversation is useful and that you can have fun. I'm certainly willing to tell you everything that I have done right and wrong, and hopefully it helps you. So a little bit about me. I'm Mexican. I grew up in Mexico, and I came to the US about 19 years ago when I married my husband, Brett. We have a son, an 11-year-old boy. I'm looking for my slide. Is it showing? Oh, this thing is something was going wrong. So today I work at Faurecia. Faurecia is sitting. I am the vice president of business development. So I work a lot with Ford and GM and FCA. I have always worked in the automotive industry. For the last 20 years, I worked in the automotive industry. Prior to Faurecia, where I have been really only 1 year, I worked for Faurecia North America, where I had several roles, 7 to be exact. So I worked in quality and engineering, in program management, and then in business development, regional, and then globally. I am an engineer. I think of myself as an engineer. I was telling someone at the table today. I studied in Mexico. I graduated from engineering school there. Then I came to the US and I went to U of M for my master's degree, which I thoroughly recommend. I really enjoyed the program, really stimulating. It is really humbling to learn with everybody there. Everybody is so driven and smart and fun. I love running. I have made time on and off through my whole life for running, and I also really enjoy reading. So, I was asked to talk about what living from purpose means to me. And I think it's a complicated topic. It's a pretty deep topic, and I think it can have many different interpretations. For some people, purpose may be a great cause, like a compelling cause, like ending hunger or helping children. For others, it may be more of their aspiration, who they want to become, like becoming a governor. Others may think of it as their goals or their values or even their accomplishments. According to Nick Craig, who is the founder of the Core Leadership Institute, purpose is the essence of who you are. He describes it as if you were replaced in your roles, in your work, or in your home by someone with the same skills. And later somebody would ask the people that normally you interact what they missed. That's your purpose. That's the essence of who you are. So it is the unique gift that you bring to the table. And I actually thought twice about calling it a unique gift because I didn't know if it just sounds too flowery, right? But the more I thought about it, I don't know of another way to describe it. So, why is it important to know what your purpose is? I like using this quote. It's attributed to Einstein. And it says that everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, he will spend his life thinking he's stupid. And I think when we don't know what our purpose is, we may spend too much of our energy trying to be a better version of what other people want you to be. So I do believe it is important to clarify to ourselves what is our purpose. And research says that there are 3 ways that may help you do that. One is to think of magical moments or important moments, normally from your childhood, that when you recall them, you're very alive and they are very special for you. Other may be to think of difficult situations, experiences that were very challenging to you, because when you are in the bottom, normally you tend to rely on your inner resources to get out of it. So it may shed some light on what your purpose is. And the other is to look into activities that you have done your whole life, things that really excite you, things that you do for the sake of doing. You may actually not be good at it, but you have stick with it for a long time. So, ideally, you would craft a purpose statement. Some people have a set of words. Some people may use an image. Others actually use mathematical equations, right? So normally those statements may not make sense to everyone, at least not without an explanation, because they are very personal. So I don't have a set of words, but I know what my purpose is. And as I was trying to prepare to this, I thought that 10 minutes is really not enough to convince you why I think my purpose is that. When I was growing up, I grew up in a very small town in Mexico, and I was always running. all of the memories that I have is of me running. So I was able to run faster than most of the girls, or really all of the girls. Mind you, there weren't many because this was a very small town. So then later I started running against the boys, and I was able to run faster than the boys as well. But what I remember the most is that I was pretty certain that I had never run as fast as I could, because I felt that I could run as fast as I needed to run to win. And I can tell you that today, 35 years later, I still think that. Not literally, but I do believe that given the effort, if you're willing to put in the effort and the stretch, you really can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. And as I look through my career and my relationship with my family and my friends, I believe that that is what I bring to the table. When a difficult situation comes around, my conviction that we can achieve it clears the way, takes away the second guess, and takes away the distractions, take away everything else, and the other people can bring their purpose and help us achieve what it is that we have to achieve. And I could tell you many examples. We don't have time for that, but when you are in that zone, when you really are faced with these challenges, some people feel sorry for me. I work in the automotive industry. I'm sure a lot of you do. And that's a tough industry, right? So when you have situations like you may shut down Ford's F-150 line or something like that, the pressure, the stress is very large. And some people feel like, wow, how can you do that? I can tell you that I never feel better than when I'm actually having to exert that effort to stretch myself to accomplish what needs to be done. So when we talk about diversity, I think this concept of purpose is key, because when I understand to myself how I operate when I am in that zone, and obviously everybody has a different purpose, right? And you understand the other's purpose and the strength that comes from actually doing what you're meant to do, it is clear that one person cannot do it all, right? It is clear that you need everybody's differences, because if they feel that energy and that commitment and that satisfaction and draw that meaning from doing what they are meant to do, there is no way that other can do it better. So I encourage you to try and clarify what that purpose is. Sometimes I looked at a lot of descriptions of it. Some of them sound like what your company's purpose is, right? So I like this phrase that I hear that says, if you can be fired from it, then it's not your purpose. Don't look at what the company wants you to be only. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and Chief Executive Officer of Ben-Kari Mechanical, LLC, Adrian Bennett.
Wow. Good afternoon, ladies. I always get nervous doing this. Remember, I'm just a plumber, okay? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, Adrian Bennett. Adrian Bennett She is a mother of 3 children. I have 2 sons and a daughter, and a beautiful granddaughter. And I'm proud to say that they are standing on their own 2 feet. And they're doing it for themselves. Matter of fact, my daughter just sent me to come visit her. She paid for my plane ticket, had the car pick me up at the house and take me to the airport. She met me at the airport in a brand new Cadillac. She took me to see Mariah Carey, Mimi, in Houston. And then she cooked for me Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for breakfast. Then we went out to dinner. Then she took me for a mani-pedi. And I'm like, damn, this is what it's like when you go and take care of your business. They get grown and move away. They can take care of you. Seriously, again, Adrian Bennett is just Adrian. I've been called the Rosa Parks of plumbing. I've been called the, I've been told I was the female Moses, and I'm like, no, I'm just Adrian. I'm just Adrian. I was at a Jimmy Carter Get Out to Vote rally. Some of you weren't even born when he was president. And a gentleman walked up to me and asked me how would I like to make $50,000 a year in '76. $50,000 a year is still good today, ladies. And I asked him, was it legal? And he said, yes. I said, doing what? He says, being a plumber. I was at an engineering program at Lawrence Tech, and I decided to leave that program because he said, I need a woman to get something done. And that's when my purpose was put in place. He said there were 5 women before me that had left the program for different reasons, and he needed a woman that could stick and stay. And so I gave him my word, and before he passed away, he said, you kept your word. And this is 40 years ago. I can only talk to you about what's worked for me and what helped me survive an all-male dominated industry as far as plumbing. If you can picture 40 years ago, a black woman showing up and as an apprentice and being looked upon and being told, no more women. And the more they pushed, the more I decided to stay. So my purpose, I can only talk to you about, again, what has helped me to stand here before you today. And I have to say it's the man above. That path was paved for me long before I even knew that I'd be standing here today. Oprah Winfrey or Tyler Perry could not have wrote this journey. I tell you, it's no way. She stated, Tuesday, the mayor had me on the state address, had me stand up. He talked about the projects I worked on, what we were currently doing. And then Tuesday, Channel 2, Ruth Raj took me through a tour of the train station. And then there was something else that just happened. I told him I'm not supposed to tell it, but it's pretty big. It's pretty big. And I got to hold on to it, but I'll let you all know later because I promise, again, I keep my word. And then here I am today in front of you. So only the man above could have wrote this script for me because there was people who tried it to make sure I didn't survive. And it wasn't about them. It wasn't about what they felt. It was about what my purpose was for me to stand here today and to tell you what I'm going to talk to you about. I grew up in Chicago, and I went to Catholic school. So those of us know about the nuns back in the day, and my mother and her sister. The one thing they instilled in me was discipline. Ladies, you all know if we don't have discipline, we cannot make it in this world today. And that's something I learned as a child. And to this day now, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And we have to be patient with ourselves and patient with everybody around us because you know what? Nobody thinks the same way we do. We have to be willing to accept everybody for who they are and what they are. I am driven. I don't know where it comes from. I had a great-grandfather who had 1,000 acres in Alabama. A black man having 1,000 acres in Alabama, back then, he was phenomenal. He has got a tombstone now that's still standing of Granite and marble, 6 feet tall on his acreage. We still own that land in Alabama. So it's in my DNA. So it wasn't, again, my purpose. You look at your history, you look at where you come from. That's where you decide. That's the beginning. You look at your grandmothers, your grandfathers, you look at where you come from. All of that helps you to determine your individual purpose. I promote professionalism and standards, and my children will tell you, I pushed, and now I'm pushing my plumbers. Now, 40 years ago, I learned the plumbing code. Guess what? It's obsolete today. So which means I've got to do what? I've got to go back to school. And I push them. If I can go back, so can you. The code changes every 3 years with all the standards. So to make sure your drinking water is safe, that you're safe to not worry about drinking what you're drinking right there, the license that I carry, it makes sure that that is taken care of. You also have to continue to learn on a personal level. I have grown so much. Like I said, I never would have thought I'd be here. I'm just a plumber. A man asked me to do something, and I did it, and I never knew where it was going to take me. I had no clue. He told me I was going to be the first. I just showed up. The harder it got, the harder I had to work, and the stronger I got. The more they pushed me, the better I became. I surround myself with smart people that are smarter than me. That's kind of difficult, but no, it's not. Anyway, the crew we have, I don't have to worry about where they're going to be on Monday morning because they have not been out drinking and running and chasing in the streets all weekend because they are Christian-based. These men are married, happily married with families. I've got one who is just coming back from taking his daughter to gymnastic tryouts. And the thing is that, again, my spiritual strength comes from, I believe the man above is still working, putting this together so that I can show you all it can be done. So I surround myself with people that are smarter than me because I don't know everything and I don't want to know everything. And I want to make sure that when it comes time for me to be able to take that step over here, I've got somebody I can go to. I've got a network. And you have to remember now, they didn't want me there. So for years, I had nobody I can go to. There was no women. I was it. I didn't have anybody that when they called me names, they grabbing on me, pulling on me for me to go somewhere and have refuge. It wasn't there. But I've got my soldiers now that surround me and protect me because they knew what I went through. So what I'm saying to you ladies, with your purpose, when you're on that journey, you're going to find obstacles. And you have to overcome every obstacle you dealt with. You surround yourself with good people. And I think that speaks for itself. You stand by your word. Being the first, if I said I was going to do something, I had to do it. Because they were watching me. They're still watching me 40 years later. I just had a meeting a few months ago. I was bringing in a gentleman, he's Hispanic from Mexico, and he doesn't have a license. But I brought him in as a metal tradesperson. They wanted to dispute me when I hired him. I said, why would I lie after all this time? I said, ask him the question, he'll tell you. Stand by your word and be who you say you're going to be because somebody's always watching to bring you down. You may think they're an ally, but they will reveal themselves. Another thing, ladies, pay your bills. Chemical Bank is here, and I was able to go to Chemical Bank. I didn't get all the way to the door, but I got to Chemical Bank, and there's a lady here who helped me out. Where's she at? Raise your hand. Where's she at? Where is she? Come on, Kathy. Oh, okay. Thank you, Kathy. But because I paid my personal bills, Ben Curry has got credit because we have the personal guarantee everything when you own a business. How many ladies know about personal guarantees? But when you pay your bills, you're guaranteed when you go to Chemical Bank, you will get what you need. And that's how you start raising up your business and growing your business. So lady, pay your bills on time. Pay them, but pay them on time as well. Also pay yourself. I mean, it was years before I was able to pay myself. I invested everything I owned into Ben Curry. I sold all my stocks. I took my retirement. I took everything I had to put into Ben Curry because somebody told me, invest in you, Adrienne. Don't invest in no stock. You're the best stock I know of. And that's what I did. Another thing, ladies, I stand here, and I can say stand because I'm standing here in my heels. Long-term disability. Remember, I was a plumber, and they made it hard on me. They broke my body down. As a 5-year apprentice, I was carrying pipe. I had a tube belt that weighed more than I did. And my poor body took the toll on it. And ladies, where men have muscles, we have a uterus, we have fallopian tubes, and all them other good parts that God blessed us with. That last child of mine, I had to lay in bed with him for 7 months to get him here due to the physical strain of my body going through this apprenticeship. Long-term disability is the one thing that you should get, and you should make sure you make it a priority. Because we are in this man's world. We're working every day. Women are having heart attacks. Women are having strokes. Women are having high blood pressure. We're dealing with it. It's not a man's disease anymore. It's our disease. You get you some long-term disability, so if something happens to you, you've got something to fall back on. Rely on yourself. I suggest if you're not a smoker, don't start. It's not a good thing. And I know we get stressed. And we'll go to grab something. Well, don't let it be a cigarette. Don't let it be a lot of alcohol. Don't let it be drugs. Because it's out there, and we have our moments. Trust me. There was many days I wanted to go somewhere and cry. You know, I had somebody grabbing on me, pulling on me, or calling me all kind of names. But I didn't do it. I had to go within myself and find the strength I needed to continue to make it. I've got 6 P's. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. If you are properly prepared for anything, I don't care what it is, you will perform. And that's the one thing that they didn't realize about me. I always became properly prepared. No matter what they threw at me, I was ready for it. You got to be ready, and you got to bob and weave. I learned how to bob and weave. I learned how to step to the side, back it up. You have to be flexible. We have to be able to move it around. Again, I'm in a man's world. And yes, there's a lot of women coming into the industry now, and I'm so grateful. And hopefully what I'm saying to you will help you as you continue to grow, because you're going to have those days that you want to go sit in a corner and cry. And it's okay. It's okay. I don't plan on retiring. And guess why? Because when you start sitting down, what happens to our body? I can still go out there and lay pipe with the rest of them. But the only thing is that when I show up on a job, they always wonder, who's going to get fired? She got 2 checks in her hand. Because usually that's why I show up on a job, is to fire somebody. But I make it a point, and Anna, she was talking about she's a runner. I got these long legs, thank you, Jesus. And I used to run track. I was also a swimmer. Stay physically fit. I got to talk to you ladies, take care of yourselves. It's stressful out here when you go to work, you got a family, you're taking care of your home, you're taking care of this, you're taking care of that. We always put ourselves on the back burner. You got to take care of yourselves. You're number one. You don't make you an option when everybody else is a priority. You don't do that. So I don't plan on retiring. I went into the Judah C. Madison building. It's the only black-owned building in downtown Detroit. We got a maintenance contract over there. I walked in. The little lady sitting behind the desk, and she said, well, you have to sign the book. I said, okay, I signed the book. She was looking at a little monitor there. She said, which car is yours? I said, that one. She said, okay, you parked in the right spot. She said, who are you here to see? I said, I'm here to see, She said, okay, that's my daughter. So when her daughter came down and she introduced me, she said, "This is my mother, 92 years old. And that's her building." And she's sitting there watching who can come and go. And she'll tell you, move, and will chase you down the street if you're in her parking spot. Okay? So I'm like, well, did she motivate me? I said I'm standing here today because I know this is a purpose for me. In 1995, I lost the feeling in my hands, and I got blurred vision. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, I done caught something out here in this plumbing industry. And it's nothing that doesn't have a cure. And it got worse. And I happened to wake up maybe 3 years later. Literally 3 years later, I woke up. I'd had a bout of seizures, wearing diapers, been bedbound, multiple sclerosis. I went from wearing diapers, ladies, not being able to walk, to walking up on the stage in my heels. My purpose is for you to believe in yourselves. You don't let a disease, a man, a woman, a job, finances, anything stop you for what your purpose is. I can't say that any more to you than that. And balance your life. Balance your life as best you can. It's not all about work. It's not all about your children. It's about you and balancing it all and having fun. And I'm going to say you aim high, young ladies. I've got some age on some of you. I may not look it, but I do. I've been doing this for 40 years. You can add, okay? And last thing I'm going to say is, if you aim for the moon. And if you fall among the stars. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Vice President of the Cabinet Studio, Lee Ann Hello.
Wow, that's something to follow. It's awesome. So, let me just see if I can get the. Do I have to point this at this? There, okay. I was doing the pointer, sorry. Okay, so people will forget what you said, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. This quote, made popular by the late Maya Angelou, I believe is a hallmark of any great leader. And I believe that that simple thought, that people will never forget how you made them feel, should be the guiding thought that drives our purpose for each and every one of our companies. I also like this quote for today on a personal level, because I'm actually recovering from a concussion, so I hope that you do forget that I have to read my talk, but that you remember instead how I made you feel. So again, I'm Leanne Hello, and when I do public speaking, I think that my purpose is to do two things. One is to give you valuable insight on the topic, and that's leading with purpose. But two, more importantly, is to help you really think and look inward, beyond the words that I'm saying, to figure out your own truth behind this topic, in hopes of then being able to apply some of the thoughts that you hear today in a way that's natural and that feels right for you. And I think that this is super important because today we're consuming so much information and content and everything so quickly. I don't think we sit down enough to sit back and think, how does this apply to me? So I encourage you to think of your personal situation and your company as I move my way through this talk and as we're up here on the panel. So now, leading with purpose is an amazing topic. And there's a wealth of information out there to navigate this leadership style. So I'm just curious, how many of you have heard of the thought leader Simon Sinek? Yeah, okay. So for some of you, there's that haven't heard of him, If after this luncheon you're inspired to learn more about finding your purpose, I highly recommend that you look into his work. So it's Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K, for those of you that actually want to look into this. He imagines a world in which the vast majority of us actually wake up feeling inspired. We feel safe at work, and we actually go home feeling fulfilled at the end of each day. Sounds pretty wonderful, doesn't it? So in the women on the stage before me today, you guys have done a phenomenal job about talking about exactly this. So to be honest, for me, I had a difficult time streamlining my talk to fit under the exact theme of leading with purpose, because I feel like there's such a strong emotional response when people hear the words lead, leader, and leadership. And depending on your experience with people in these roles, your vision of what a leader should be might be very skewed. So I'd like to suggest that we could look at this and frame the same topic in a different way and calling it living with purpose. Oh, and that was for you guys to look inward. So we could call it living with purpose. I also found that framing it this way helped me lean into this talk, and I hope it does the same thing for you, because I think that we can all gain value from today wherever we are within the organization, leader or not. So how I initially navigated toward living with purpose as opposed to leading with purpose was in preparing for this talk. I was looking at leadership and purpose in a few different angles. I looked at it at the typical role of a leader at work in a managerial or executive position, and I thought I could talk on that and how important it is that we all have a shared vision and a shared purpose to help drive our business forward. Then I thought I could pull back the curtain a bit, and I could talk about what that person's mindset and even their morning has to look like before they even come to the office. Because I think far too often, we look at ourselves and those around us by the title that they hold. And we forget that we're all just people and that we all need to have a purpose that drives us out of bed in the morning. So then I also thought that I really could take the spin that we're all leaders, no matter where we are in the business, even if we don't hold a managerial title. Because we don't know who's watching us and listening to us at every level of the organization and even beyond. I think the old saying here, smile because you don't know who's watching, I think the same thing applies when we're in our everyday. So as I was working my way through all of these parts, I realized that true leaders, people that we want to listen to, people that we want to follow and rally behind, and people that we respect, I don't think that they put on their leadership hat when they know that they're being watched. I think that true leaders live a life with purpose. So when I use the word purpose here, I don't mean your financial goals for your company. Profit is not purpose. Although true purpose can lead to a bigger profit. And don't get me wrong, financial goals, they are important, and good leaders will guide their team to reaching these financial goals. But when I talk about purpose, I'm talking about the real reason, the true why behind all that our companies do. The real reason your clients have kept you in business. So I want you to think about it. And if you're not sure what your real reason is, I suggest that you talk to some of your loyal clients, because they'll tell you. And I can almost guarantee that it's not price. It never really is. So when you're working on your company's higher purpose, I want you to remember that purpose can never be fulfilled or completed. It's not like a goal that we can just achieve and mark off. It's like a guiding light that we strive for, but we never actually achieve. I believe the most effective purpose is always related to how people in front of you feel. If that's your employees, your coworkers, or your clients. Again, going back to that beginning quote, people will never forget how you made them feel. For example, the purpose of Disneyland since the beginning has been to create happiness for others. Every Disney employee, they buy into this higher purpose and tries to create happiness for each individual that they meet with every task that they perform, knowing that everything that they do contributes to this purpose, and that because of this, their job has meaning and they are making a difference. So I encourage you to think of your company's purpose. And if it isn't compelling enough for everyone to rally behind and for every employee to feel like they are making a difference, I recommend rethinking and diving a bit deeper to find the real reason that your company exists. And as you're thinking about your company, let me draw on my personal experience with this. I'm a kitchen designer. My mom started the business 24 years ago, actually this Friday, so happy anniversary, Mom. Oh wow, that was pretty awesome. And I joined her 14 years ago. So we design kitchens and we sell non-toxic cabinetry for those kitchens. That's what we do. But that's not our purpose. That's not why we work the hours that we work. That's not why we've stayed in business for as long as we have. Our purpose is to make our clients feel proud of the kitchen they have and love walking into it every day. This future feeling for our clients is what drives all of our decisions. This is why our designs are just a little bit better. This is why our service is just a little bit better, because we aren't driven by the project or the paycheck. We're driven by the pride our clients will feel when we are no longer in the picture. And it's cute. Mom brags that I'm her best employee. I'm actually her only employee, but it's okay. And the funny part is the reason why she feels this way is probably because she's been training me for 38 years, my entire life. She hasn't been training me with a manual on how to design kitchens or how to sell to clients, but she's been training me on how to live a life with purpose. She's been training me and teaching me how to be honest, how to treat others properly, how to respect myself and those around me. And it just so happens that now she benefits for that in her business. So this is why I say, instead of leading with purpose, we should all be living with purpose. And that purpose should be centered around us being the best versions of ourselves, so then we can make those around us feel good, valued, and heard, because you never know who is watching and listening to us and going to use you as their example. So what example are you living? What is your purpose? Thank you so much. Oh, we'll just leave that.
Up here. Well, if I could have Anna come on back up again and Adrian come on back up, we'll start our conversation. That was excellent, Leanne. We have a lot to unpack here. First of all, what did you say again, Adrian? Was it proper preparation prevents piss poor performance? I'm going to put that on a T-shirt. We're going to have that for sale on the way out. So you can wear that back to work.
I want my cut.
Okay.
I want my percentage.
And we're going to give her a cut. She's like, no, I got a cut. Yeah, I got a cut coming from this. All right, Leanne, go ahead, take a seat next to me.
Oh, and I don't need this, right?
You don't need the clicker now.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot that we can talk about, and I'm really excited for this. And again, we want your participation. I want you a part of this conversation. This is how I love to do any kind of moderation or big group discussion. You're a part of this as well. You're not just watching. So if you have questions and you want to get on the conversation, I will turn out here to the audience, and you're going to be able to be a part of it. But I want to start with all three of you to kind of talk a little bit about perception. I think when we're all in business and in any job that we do and any work that we do, we walk into a room, we can be instantly perceived one way or another. Whether we've had the amount of work on the job, or 40 years on the job, 5 years on the job, or whatnot. How do you get over even maybe some of the self-doubt that you can have when you're getting in front of a group or starting a new project or just asserting yourself in the position that you have? And I'm going to start with you, Leanne.
One of the things that I tell myself, which makes it easier on myself, is that this might be uncomfortable, but it's only going to be comfortable for this amount of time. And if I can just play the part that I'm not uncomfortable, then we're going to get through it a lot easier. So I just kind of psych myself up that I'm not worried about it, because I started in the business when I was 25, and I looked super young. I didn't even look 25. And so I had the perception, a lot of people thought, oh, she brought in her daughter and she doesn't. I've been told like, oh, well, I wouldn't wish this business on my children. I would make them get an education first, where I had my bachelor's. I didn't look like I was old enough to, but I had my bachelor's. So I had all this, but the perception was that I was just in mommy's business. So I had to set myself up and just take charge, even if I didn't feel that inside. So,
Adrienne.
that's the trick.
Well, with me, I have to admit that, as I said, I wasn't wanted in the industry. So I had to show them that I was supposed to be there. And the engineering phase that I had was metallurgical engineering, which is the study of metal. And pipe is nothing but metal at the time, but there was no plastic around. So I had to show them. And the best example was when the instructor was doing for lead pipe, which we're getting rid of now. There was an example of how you connected. And I associated with something from home ec. So literally you had a straight piece of pipe and a Y, and a 45, you had to make a Y joint, okay? So you had to make a preparation, you had to stick the pipe into it without penetrating the flow of the water. So I'm looking at this, I'm watching the instructor do this. And so as he's taking the lead, he's molding the lead around the joint, and I'm watching him, and he literally says, oh, okay. So he asked for a volunteer. I volunteered to be first. Aced it right away. I associated with pie crust. What do you do, ladies, when you get the bottom crust, you put the top crust on top, you're stopping the juices from coming out by crimping it on the sides. Same principle. I mean, they were furious. So again, I took my skills that I already had to succeed, and after that, they were totally intimidated. And when I told them, I said, it's pie crust, I said, you crimp it, because they never did pie crust. So they didn't realize it was the same principle to keep the water and the gases from coming out. Just crimp it around the pipe with your fingers, and it was done. So again, I basically just had to really outsmart them. I really did.
Anna, what about you in terms of perceptions that maybe you've had to come up against before and dealing with, if you've ever had any kind of self-doubt in that way?
Yes, so of course. I mean, I work in the automotive industry. I think there are 2.5% of the people working in automotive are Mexican women. 2.5%, and I actually thought it's higher because I don't see many. I think what comes to my mind as they were talking is when I was just starting to go to Ford. Ford has always been my main customer. I would ask a question to the engineers, and they would answer my question, but they would answer looking at the guys that came with me.
Has that happened to anyone?
It was strange because they didn't dismiss the question. Obviously, they thought it was important and needed to be answered, but they wouldn't look at me. Now, the thing with perception is very strange. Years later, I found out, it was actually a pretty difficult time in my career. I found out that people felt intimidated by me. I actually ran into some trouble with HR at some point in my career, and they say, well, Anna, you're too tough. People are intimidated by you. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm super short, my voice doesn't carry, I sound like a girl, I'm Mexican, I'm a woman. What do you mean you're intimidated by me? And if you are, we're kind of shame on you type thing, right? So what I'm trying to say is perceptions, you have to watch them. Not only what others think of you, but mostly what you think of yourself.
You know, I think that's interesting because, everyone's responding to this, that there's a lot of us in the room that have maybe felt that way before or have had to have those conversations of how you appear and how you speak to people and how they do perceive that. And you have to then change in your mind how you come across or how to change things. And that can be difficult, but it can lead to the larger question of how we communicate with staff and how we communicate with coworkers. And making sure that when we're reporting to leaders, when we're reporting to people above us, that we all have some kind of the same expectations and communication. Adrian, let me ask you, how important is it to make sure that there is clear, concise communication about what is needed, what is expected, and what the final goals are, that there's no chaos in kind of the chain of command?
Again, I have to go back on my self-experience. I'm working with men, and I literally, if it's something that I need for them to do, because we have a tier, and I'm here, and I have my project manager, my superintendent, but they all understand what my expectations are because I've laid it out for them. And the one thing I found I had to do is I would express what I wanted and what I needed, and I asked them to repeat it back to me. Mm-hmm. So then that way they will eliminate the fact that they couldn't say they didn't hear what I said. Isn't that what we do with our children? I mean, I hate to say that, but that's, again, what's worked for me. I've had to go in there, and again, what you're saying about the leadership role, there was the intimidation piece. I'm 5'8", and after I got to a certain point, and I literally got buff. I mean, from carrying the pipe, I had a neck of 19 inches at one time. From literally carrying the pipe. I mean, my bicep, I'm not doing too bad right now. But
we're going to get you in the CrossFit game.
but I did come across very strong, and I had to learn how to tone it down. And it's the area was different. I'm on construction sites, so what came out with these guys. I heard words I never heard before. I had to go ask my father, what does that mean? What is that word? Where'd you hear that? On the job. Oh, but again, I literally was educated, and I had to get rough and tough. I looked like they did. I dressed like they did. And as my body got bigger, I remember putting on a spring coat, and I went like this and put it on. I went and it split right down the middle. And I said, the cleaners shrunk my coat. I said, it wasn't the cleaners. I had gotten so broad, but I felt this is what I needed to do to get my presence and get my voice heard. And I found that there's a way that you can win over your enemies. And with that, I basically started talking directly to them and asking them, what is your problem? Why do you have a problem with me? And basically, the tears, I mean, it's taken a long time, like I said, 40 years, but I would have to say I'm seeing a difference now. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing a change because there are women engineers, there are women architects, there are women contractors, women business owners, and they're dealing with more of us now, mm-hmm. and it's not just one anymore that they can pick on.
Right.
So basically, it's just, again, what worked for me, but I had to learn how to soften my tone and how to soften how I was.
Changing tone and figuring out how to deal in your specific workplace is one thing. It still doesn't mean you have to dilute the message of whatever you have to communicate and the expectations that you need to ask of people, Anna. And how important would you find that communicating with staff and making sure that everyone knows what's expected, so there isn't that kind of chaotic, well, what are we supposed to be doing, or when is this supposed to come through? How important would you say that is in that communication?
I mean, it's vital, right? To me, the team needs to know at all times in what direction we're going, right? Because you're never there all the time, right? You cannot be watching all of the activities. So your role, most importantly, is to ensure that they know roughly in what direction we want to take things at all times. Now, communication is a funny thing. You always think you're communicating properly, right? Because if you knew at the moment that you aren't, you would correct that right there. You always assume that what you're saying is clear for everyone. I have been in situations where I find out later that they had a different idea of what I wanted, right? Or that they knew that my direction was wrong, and they didn't say, hey, something is off here. I tend to get angry when that happens. I'm like, why would you let me go in that direction if you saw it? It was funny, I actually asked that question of a guy once, and he told me, well, I guess you haven't seen yourself when you get in those moods. It's not easy to tell you, hey, you're doing this wrong, or you're not communicating properly. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, again, the perception. It is what the world is seeing is not what you're thinking, right? It's not what you're trying to say.
Leanne, I think you have a very unique situation because you do work with your mom.
Right.
And you guys have to have communication. I think if I worked with my mother, we might not be a successful business. But how important then is communication between the two of you? And do you ever say, okay, you're not my mom at this point, you are my coworker or you are my boss, but we gotta take coffee someplace else.
You have to. So it's funny because Mom and I were together all the time, and everybody, I don't know how many times we hear, I wish I could be in the car with you guys. I wish I could just be in the office with you
How
guys.
about
You
a
guys are
reality
so
show for you
cute.
guys? Will there be
Do you
a
know how
reality
many
show
times we've been
for your-
asked that? We really should do that. But it's funny because everybody says, you guys are so cute together, and you guys are always on the same page, and I was like, it's because you're not behind our closed doors. So sometimes we do butt heads with things. But what I'm learning, and Mom has probably seen this the whole time, but I'm a slow learner when it comes to my emotions. I had a difficult time getting out of the "you're my mom" kind of thing, and so now it's finally starting that I'm realizing the thing she's saying is out of experience, out of for the job, and it was like an internal. Assuming that I'm not good enough, which is ridiculous because my mom has never said anything other than you're going to be great and She's like my biggest cheerleader. But it was that internal talk that I have, and then compounding it with Mom telling you, then it was just so now we kind of get out of that. And I think it's just a mental thing and talking about it, and I talk to Mom about it all the time now. I'm just I'm so sorry for before, because now I realize we're separate. It's mom and daughter, and then we're partners. And another thing that I wanted to point out was, so we're our business, but then it's unique because we also have to be kind of overseeing the plumbers, the electricians, the contractors, everybody that are male. And one of the ways that we handle it, I'm very diplomatic. So, and I do have a little bit of engineering background, so I look at jobs differently. I'm not the foo-foo designer that's make this happen, even though the walls can't change, but I'm sure you can magically do it. I know what can be done. And so when I go in and I will say something, and then it might take a little bit more thought, a little bit more work, but I know that it can be done. But the contractor, whoever, looks at me no, can't be done, sorry, because of this. And they'll give me some whatever. No, it's just because you don't want to take that extra step. So what I have realized that I have to say is, okay, well, I just want you to think on it a little bit more because I feel like you're so good in your craft that you'll be able to figure this out.
You know what that sounds like? It sounds like an ancient Jedi mind trick. These aren't the droids you're looking for.
And I hope that this isn't going to be taped and thrown out there, and now all my guys are going to be what have you been doing?
No, but it's a larger understanding of your business. So you're not just in the silo of me. I'm just an anchor and a reporter, and I have no idea how the rest of the show gets put on. It's taking the time to understand every aspect of your business, what the person down the hall has to do, or what the 5 people over here have to do. That you're only on a conference call with them maybe once a week, but you have a greater understanding, and then sometimes your expectations then can rise a little bit because yes, you do know maybe what can be done if you can kind of push the envelope a little bit.
I totally agree with you. Having had the experiences going through the trades as I did, so when I do talk to them, they know I'm talking from a word of experience. And with the business, there's not a role that they're performing that I haven't performed before. So again, I've learned how to communicate with my general, and I know them. I know who they are. We get along very well. We really have a well-oiled machine. Our company, we did 155% production increase in 12 months.
And you're a family-owned company, too.
And we're a family-owned company, yes. So our company is growing, and we have that, again, I have to give credit where credit is due. We've been brought together, and we work together so well. And there's a mutual respect. I mentioned earlier about they're my soldiers, because they know where I've been and what I've done, because they're part of that union. They've heard the stories of who and what I was, and now they understand, and there's a respect there. Mm-hmm. And there's also respect with the fact that we work very hard. We're a quality company, and if we make a mistake, we don't go run and hide. We'll step up to the plate and we'll correct it, but that's very seldom happen. So again, when I said about, be the person you are, give your word, stand by your word, all that is so important when you're in business.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about also...
And my guys, that's the one thing they feel about me. If she says something, she's going to do it, she's going to do it.
She means it.
She means it, and they know they can rely on me. That there's been incidents where I had to back up my guys, my leadership team, I was there for them.
I think when we also talk about leading with a purpose, sometimes I can get bogged down in leadership in time management and making sure that you are devoting the time for the things that need it, or if you say, you know what, I can offload this someplace else, or I don't need to worry about this as much, and time management is really crucial. Anna, talk to us a little bit about what role time management has played in your leadership structure and how you do your job, and maybe some shortcuts or some different things that you've been able to do to help yourself out.
Yeah, so the automotive industry is very fast-paced, as you know, right? So we have a lot going on. A lot of what we do is important in real time, right? So there is no way to go back and think about it. I feel, I don't know if my team would agree, some of you are here, I feel that I've always been pretty good at setting priorities, right? So you cannot do it all. You have to understand what's important, and you understand what's urgent, and most importantly, you really have to know what's important and urgent. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have never had a job where I could do everything that I was supposed to do, and I liked it that way. As a matter of fact, every one of the jobs that I have had, I was already doing it when I actually was given the job. So I normally get involved in more than what I'm supposed to do. And to be very honest, I confessed this to my bosses in the past, is I like having more to do than the time that I can do it in, because some things I don't want to do, right? I want to be able to say I don't have time for that, because that's the honest truth. That's how it works. So yeah, prioritization. And one thing about delegation that is very important to me, I was criticized at some point through the years that I was not good at delegating. I actually was starting to believe it until I had better people in my team. There was a time where I just didn't have a team that I could safely delegate things. And then these people came, and I became so good at delegating that I was actually ashamed of how little I did. So time management has a lot to do with delegation, but for you to delegate, if you care about the results, then you have to have people that are competent and capable so that you can give them a portion of the work.
It was what Adrian was talking about. Hire the smartest people in the room.
Yes.
And bring them on your team and give them the power to be able to make some decisions, or that you can feel confident in saying, you know what, I need you to take care of it, and this is what I need you to do, and I'm going to come back in 2 days, and I'm not going to be hovercrafting over what you're doing right now, because I trust that you can get it done. Mm-hmm. What about time management for you, Leanne?
So we're actually just starting to take Sundays off, and which is ridiculous because we should have been doing this all along. But we do everything, and I am I'm getting much better at it. I'm not a micromanager, but I want my hand in absolutely everything, and I feel...
There's a lot of laughing out there. People are like, yeah, me too, I can't.
Oh my gosh. And it's funny because Mom's really good at... she'll tell me, that's good, just that's it. You don't have to, that doesn't have to be right to the exact, especially for like initial designs and all this kind of stuff. She's like, it's gonna change. We're gonna go see the client. It doesn't have to be like final to the, I'm starting to realize, figure out, so like your priorities, your urgency is huge, but also figure out where you are in the game of what you're doing. So I'm starting to be able to step back and realize, okay, if this is an initial meeting, I want it to be the best for them, but they're not looking at it that like every little thing is in it. They're gonna look at it for 2 seconds and say, I love it, or can we change this, or whatever. Then we'll go reiterate it, and at the end, that's when you can stay up and figure stuff out. So she's been trying to teach me this for quite a while, and I think I'm finally starting to learn it.
It's actually kind of just piggybacking on what Anna said in her initial talk about that stretch. How far you need to stretch and when. Adrian, what about time management for you?
Well, the advantage we have is that we put a bid together. Let's say the train station. They give us a blueprint. So we sit down as a team and we all have our components that we are reviewing. And then we come together at the end and we look at everything. We go over the hours, we go over the material. We just make sure we go back and forth and make sure that we've touched and caught everything we need to catch. And then the question will come up, okay, what did we learn from the last project that was similar to this? What mistakes did we make, if we made any, that we can improve on this project? So with us, that helps us to improve. We were fortunate enough to be ahead of schedule on the arena. And it came back to the time management, having the right team, having the right people, and also staying on schedule. We have a schedule. So with that schedule that the general contractor has given us, we know we have to stay on that, and then we have an internal schedule that we have to follow ourselves. And we all work together. Everybody knows what their responsibilities are. We don't step on anybody's toes, but they do know if you get into trouble, you don't wait until you're way out there, you're drowning, to be pulled back in. You have to come in when that water's getting a little high and say, okay, I think we need to review this. And then, but as long as it's on paper, it's better to change it before we start installing it and have to go in there and rip it out. So that's one of the things that's beneficial for us as time management. And our team is not afraid to come in and say, you know what, we missed something.
All right, we're going to take questions from the audience now. So, and while people start to raise their hands, if anyone have questions, want to get on the conversation, and we get a microphone over to that person, I'm just going to ask you really quickly, will this be the toughest job, do you think, Adrian, working on the train station, that it'll be? Yeah, you can go on over.
Yes, it will be.
Yeah.
It's historically, as far as the challenges, it's been abandoned for 30 years. Just now getting it weatherized to get all the water out and to keep the water out. It's going to take a team effort, multiple trades, for us all to work together. Like right now, it's a skating rink. We're dodging. There's icicles falling from the ceiling. So, but it's getting there. But yes, it will be the most challenging project we will ever have.
2021?
2021.
We're going to keep track of that. That's going to be good. All right, who's our first question? Hi there.
Hi. So I want to bring up the F words, fear.
Everyone all of a sudden stopped for a second. They're like, now, wait a minute. This might not be this kind of lunch. No, go ahead.
And my mom's here, so.
Okay, sorry,
Fear.
Mom. Fear, failure, and your feelings. How do you manage all of that, leading a team, knowing you're in charge? How do you deal with that fear? How do you deal when you fail? And then how do you manage your feelings? And most of us just go in the office and break something, but when you can't do that in front of your team, what do you do?
It's a great question. Who wants to start with that? Anna, do you want to start?
Fear. I would like to say I'm normally very brave, and fear is not at the top of my things, but it's actually not true. I read lately, I did never read before about the imposter syndrome. I think we all know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Apparently it happens to a lot of people that you think, when are the other is going to realize that I'm not up to the job, right? So I think that's a form of fear. Feelings. I am not very emotional in my job. I actually can look very cold. And failure. really failure, and I know it sounds like you're reading a book, and that's the thing with this type of talks, right? You don't want to say things that everybody has read and that you know that that's what you're supposed to say. But when you really think about it, the biggest learning always happens when you fail. It is true. You don't learn more when everything is going great. You learn when you fail. So I have, over the years, learned to see it as something good, unpleasant now, but good.
It's hard to embrace. It is. Adrian, something you want to add?
I'm going to combine fear with failure, because the thing is that, and I mentioned this earlier, I could not fail. And I had to make sure I dotted my I's and crossed my T's all the time, because I knew somebody was watching. And so with my team, I try not to be that tyrant over them. I want to you give them the leeway, but I also want them to understand that there's consequences, because we're a small business. We can't afford big failures. We can't afford catastrophes, because our client won't have us come back. So the one thing that I'm finding with those F's is that it's life. You're going to have fear in life. You're going to have failure. And how do we handle all of that in life, period? And again, I think every time we're challenged with something, we just get stronger. And I encourage my team that when something happens, look at when you dealt with this before. How did you handle it? Remember, I still journal. And I go back over things and I remember things. So I have to combine fear and failure together.
So fear, I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but fear, the acronym is false evidence appearing real. I think if we can always remember that, and as soon as we get that, oh my gosh, actually think about like what is the biggest deal, right? And a lot of it is our own internal. And if we can just realize that like for instance, I feel like I'm a basket of nerves right now, right? But you guys are probably looking and like, oh no, that's making sense, and da da da. So at least I hope you are. But it's that internal thing that we all have, and if we can just get out of it, I feel like the fear won't be there as much. It needs to. We need to fuel it. If you didn't have any kind of fear, then you wouldn't do anything. You just, right? But I think there's a healthy amount, but anyway.
Great question. Thank you.
I'd like to say one more thing real quick about fear. I remember this quote that somebody said that you have to have fear to have courage. And I think it's really true, right? If you never put yourself in a situation where you have to fear something, then what's the point?
All right, where's our next question? Hello.
Hi. So you spoke a little bit today about you're not the first woman anymore and how tough it is, though, to be a woman in the auto industry. What are some of the things that you do to create environments for women to grow in your industry or in your company so that it's an environment where they are inspired to do what you've done?
More women at the front of the room. Go ahead.
Okay, that's a good question, because what I did, I sat down and I wrote my own laws. I wrote the harassment. I wrote the sexual abuse. And when we bring on new people, because we hire from the union, we have our core team, but we bring in new people. As our projects grow, we'll go to the union and we'll pull up a surplus of labor. And I have a talk with all of them. And I let them know what I went through, you are not allowed to do to anyone else on this job site, and you're not allowed to happen to you. And they all are to sign this document when they fill out their tax returns to get their money. They got to sign this document because you've read it and you understand that this is our policy internally. So that's what I had to do, because I would not allow anybody to go through what I went through. And again, my purpose is to improve the life of others. And I am leading with a purpose when I do things like that, because it was abuse. And no one is to be abused just because you're out there going to a job and working to feed your family, put a roof over your head, or do whatever it is you need to do.
Anna?
Yeah. I'm afraid I'm not going to sound very warm, right? Normally, I don't take the route of the protection of women, to be honest with you. I think the best way or the best thing that I can do for other women in the auto is to be very honest with them, right? You have to build your competencies. You have to be competent at your job. You have to learn. You have to know what you're doing. There's no way around it, right? So for the longest time, I didn't really even acknowledge the woman thing versus the man thing. You have to do the same or better than the others. That's really the only thing that you can do. So if you want to get ahead, you have to put yourself into it. You have to build your competencies. You need to do a good job. And I do believe that when we compare women to men, especially with all these talks about the gap and all of that, it is true, right? We cannot deny it. But there is a lot to be said for women prioritizing some other things more than men, right? So what I'm trying to say is men tend to prioritize their job more often, right? Women have a more complex life, right? We have the children, we have other things, and sometimes it is true that we may prioritize it a bit less. So I think it's only fair that we're honest with ourselves and we put the work in.
Another question. Hi, all the way back there.
Okay. So coming from a financial services industry where 95% is a 55-year-old male, how are you able to overcome and convince yourself, I belong in this industry, even though every day someone tells you, oh, I've got a guy for that, I've got a guy. How are you able to say, I can be your woman for that, and convince yourself?
Who wants to take that? We're going to take one answer on that so we can get one more question in. So who would like to pick up on that? Go ahead.
Don't be a woman. Just be yourself. Because you have to show that you have the quality. If you did not have what it was going to take, you wouldn't be in that position in the first place. And whoever that person is, he's Neanderthal thinking, and he's going to die off eventually. But seriously, I'm serious, because they are dying off. They said, how young was she when she got in this? But seriously, you have to be your own person. Put the gender away. Yes, he's going to be that person. That's his makeup. That's how he feels. You're going to have to shine. You have to dig down within yourself, stand up to him and let him know, I'm here. They hired me. I'm qualified.
One more question. Is there one more question? Hi.
Hi, I wanted to ask about the disease of pleasing. Often women who come to the point of finally leading with purpose, it's often a tipping point when they realize you can only please so many people so much, and it has to be your intrinsic motivation. So I'm just curious, many women I coach, it is that caterpillar finally breaking free in their cocoon. Did you each have a tipping point where you finally realized that one had to supersede over another?
Leanne, why don't you go ahead and start? And we'll just take an answer from each of you, and that's how we're going to have to wrap up.
Sure. Okay. So a tipping point, I'm not sure, but I think that like a tip that you can give is that if you are a people pleaser, start with yourself. So try to be your own best friend. Please yourself every time that you want to go and help somebody. Help yourself first, and then you'll be able to help more people. And as a woman, I think that's going to be easier for them.
Adrian.
Customer focus. That's where I look at, if you are a customer, I will have to look at what you're asking for. And if we can provide you what you need, we'll give you the best job we can give you.
Anna.
Yeah, I think it's been said. I don't have much to add. I was thinking that my husband is probably sitting there thinking, she doesn't have that disease.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much to the Detroit Regional Chamber for bringing us all together, the Detroit Golf Club for having us, and I hope that you've been able to take something away and lead with a purpose, live with a purpose. Have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.